All right, here is the second half of our lecture on genocide. And we're going to talk a little bit more about modern genocides, i.e. post-World War II, and look at how genocides kind of happen. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the Cambodian genocide, right? So in the 70s, essentially, in Cambodia, this group called the Khmer Rouge came to power. And they were kind of this rural, anti-intellectual, anti-fanciness group that thought that everybody needs to live on kind of a communist commune and farm the land, and that's the pure way to live. And they ended up killing millions and millions of Cambodian people, and took them to what is now referred to as the killing fields, and just shot them or hung them or buried them alive, or did all these horrible things to city dwellers, urban people, teachers and professors, philosophers, anybody that wasn't okay with this kind of rural, simple life, commune living kind of idea. In Rwanda, in the 90s, there was a big genocide. There were two kind of ethnic groups in Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis, and they're, they one group blamed the other for all their problems, portrayed them as different and less than, and the source of all their problems, and so they went through and started murdering this other ethnic group within the country and killed millions and millions of people, many of them just with a machete. And they, committed lots of atrocities besides even murder, rape, mutilations, all kinds of really horrible, horrible stuff, because they were convinced that this other ethnic group was the source of their problems, economic problems, cultural problems, crime problems. In what was then called East Pakistan, the West Pakistanis kind of saw the East Pakistanis as less than, and so went through and started killing millions and millions of people, all based on this same kind of economic uncertainty, cultural difference, the myth of purity, all these things. So one things that are kind of common to most or all of these cases are you have to start with kind of a national leadership that is seen as in control, seen as elite, seen as the pinnacle of whatever group we're talking about. And they kind of, these powerful people in either the state government or, just from any other kind of power, economic power, whatever, are able to paint these other groups as justifiably lesser or different or a problem. And to do this, they stoke fear, right? They're going to come and they're going to rob you. They're the ones that are financing our enemies, whether that's terrorists or, drug cartels or whatever. They rely a lot on conspiracy theory, right? So there were lots of conspiracy theories about Jewish people, especially in Europe in the 30s, but even today there are tons of conspiracy theories out there trying to portray Jewish people as lesser. This picture here is actually from a racist kind of anti-immigrant rally. Modern day white racists in the United States believe that having African Americans and Hispanic people and all these other kind of non-white impure groups coming and having this diversity of our American culture is equivalent to a white genocide, because I don't really know why they believe this, but they believe that it's causing an extinction of white people and white culture and all these things. So this conspiracy theory is what drives them, and it paints. If you believe that conspiracy theory, then it's the others that are the problem. It's the others that are the ones that are attacking us. We're victims. So if we fight in self-defense, that's justification, right? It's not that we're trying to commit a genocide on them. It's not that we're trying to kill them or get rid of their culture, or, do all these things. It's that they're attacking us. And so when we do it back to them, that's just self-defense. And that kind of justification is what drives a lot of this genocide, right? Right up until the end, the Nazis didn't see themselves as the bad guys. They didn't see themselves as the ones doing these evil, horrible things. They justified it all. They thought, oh, this is all, when we win the war, everybody else will see that we were right and they were wrong, and they'll see why we had to do these horrible things. And they had justified it to themselves for so long and so deeply that they legitimately believed that they were in the right, and it was all self-defense, and they had to protect themselves against these evil others, right? Porter says that if you want to have a genocide, these are kind of the ingredients. First is militarism, right? We need to have this kind of fetishism of the military, talk about, oh, the military is great. We need to be able to use them to solve our problems and go in and, they need to be elite and they need to be these great warriors, and we need to give them all kinds of money and bump up our defense budget, and, they need to have powerful and exclusionary political parties, right? So these political parties have to be able to say, no, all the good people, all the pure ones vote for us. It's the all the different people, they're the ones that vote for the other party. They need to have the presence of minority groups, right? So it could be along racial lines, i.e. Jewish people or African Americans or Hispanic people or whatever. Or it can just be based on politics or ethnicity, right? So the Hutus and the Tutsis in Rwanda, they were both Africans. They were both very black, they were not different races, but because they were different kind of ethnicities and different cultural groups, that was enough to be this minority group that one group can commit a genocide on the other with. You need nationalistic and or racist ideology, right? So our country's the best, and we're amazing and wonderful, and all the other people with their they're less genetically, they're other, and they're not nearly as cool as us or as great as us. And then ambitions of expansion, right? We need more. Obviously, we're the best people in the world. We have the right culture and the right way to do this and the right way to live. And we need to bring that to everybody else. We need to give our way of life as a gift to the rest of the world, right? So that ambitions of cultural or geographic expansion. But those 5 things are kind of what drives genocide. So according to Dadrian, there are 5 kinds of genocide, right? The cultural genocide, where you're not necessarily trying to wipe out people, genetically, but you're trying to wipe out their way of life, right? So as I talked about earlier with the Native Americans, where we would take Native American children and raise them with European parents. So that was an attempt to erase Native culture, not necessarily Native people, okay? The violent latent genocides, which are just kind of a byproduct of something else, right? So you're trying to accomplish goal A, and goal A is not necessarily genocide, but as a kind of a byproduct of that goal, a genocide happens. There's a retributive genocide, i.e. there's a war between 2 groups or some kind of violent conflict between 2 groups, and the winners blame the losers for all these problems that they're facing and all the dead people and the dead soldiers. So they go in and as retribution, kill off the people of the losing group. There's utilitarian, which is essentially we need to reduce the population or expand our geographic land area. So it's not necessarily that we don't like you, we just need all your resources. Sorry, that kind of thing. And then there's what Dadrian calls the optimal genocide, which is essentially just indiscriminate annihilation. Like, we just, hey, we're going to kill you. You're different, you're other. We're just going to go in and wipe you out with bullets or gas chambers, or we're going to starve you out, or we're going to, we're going to kill you, and all of you, and we really don't care whether it's women, children, old men, whatever. We don't care. We're just killing you all. Jonason and Chalk said essentially there are 4 reasons why groups commit genocide. First is to eliminate the threat of a rival, right? So Group A is afraid of Group B. They think Group B is a rival and might be dangerous in the future. So we're going to go ahead and eliminate that threat by committing a genocide against them. Second is for the acquisition of wealth, right? So a lot of the genocide in Africa during the colonial era was for wealth, right? Because Africa was so rich in natural resources, from lumber to land to gold and silver to diamonds to all these other things that we could exploit economically. So we committed a genocide specifically to gain access to that wealth. For the creation of terror, to scare people, to get terrorists commit terrorist acts, not just for the physical destruction and death that it causes, but also to cause terror in kind of the viewer, the other people who see it. They want them to be afraid. And then finally, the one that's much more common in the modern day is for the implementation of a belief, a theory, or an ideology, right? And it could be racist ideology, could be religious ideology, could be just lots of different beliefs about how the world works and why it works that way, and who's pure and who's other, and why the pure group is better, and all those things. Charney says essentially there's 4 levels. The first is a cultural genocide, where you're not necessarily murdering people, you're just getting rid of their way of life, especially through forced abortions or sterilizations, forced assimilation into different cultures, taking away children, that kind of thing. There's accomplices to genocide, where you're not actually doing the dirty work yourself, but you're kind of helping those who are. There's attempted genocide, where you're kind of trying to get rid of people and attempting to commit a genocide. And then there's actual, like, full-on mass murder of people kind of genocide, like the Khmer Rouge, like the Nazis, like the Armenians, all these groups that actually, situations where there was actual mass murder of millions and millions and millions of people. But finally, there's concentration camps, and that phrase has been in the news a lot lately as I'm recording this. And essentially, concentration camps are not unique to Nazi Germany the way a lot of Americans think they are. Concentration camps have been around for thousands of years. America has used them before. In World War II, we put Japanese Americans in concentration camps. But because people associate the term concentration camp with the Nazis, where they use their concentration camps for mass murder, they think that the definition of concentration camp has to include mass murder, and it doesn't. Concentration camps can be used for lots of different things. Obviously, the worst of which is mass murder, but that's not required to be a concentration camp. Concentration camps are about the destruction of individualism and humanity, making people who we believe are lesser physically become lesser, right? So we're going to deny them showers and toothbrushes and drinking water and sleep and all these things, and that destroys or attempts to destroy kind of who they are as a person, their humanity, their culture, their ability to relate and be with their loved ones. That's the purpose of a concentration camp. That can evolve into becoming death camps, but actual mass murder is not needed to meet the definition of concentration camp. Obviously, everybody, when they hear about concentration camps, they're afraid they're going to become death camps. That is kind of the ultimate use of concentration camps. But it's much more about treating people as lesser because we believe they're lesser. That is kind of the purpose and use of concentration camps. So that ends our lecture on genocide. Thank you very much.